Okay, wait, so you are now live.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you later. Hey, Lynn.
Hi, how are you, Wade?
Good, good. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good to see you. Let's see, Wendy. Hi, good to see you
Hi.
again.
Thanks, Wade.
Okay, Sandra, I see you finally got connected like you were having trouble with your audio, but
Yes. Is it the time to tell you very here and why I have a concern, and I won't go on and on?
sure.
Okay. The other day in one of my emails, I think it was on when I went into the internet browser, it recommended that people could look at haveibeenpawned.com, PWNED. And then when I put my email address in, it did say that I had 8 violations of my passwords, and they were all correct. And that was why I decided to enroll in the class, because all of those are places that I recognize that I have been, that my email address and phone number had been confiscated. So that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, okay. So that's probably, certainly you want to change those passwords, and we'll talk about how to make sure you get good, solid passwords that aren't easily hacked and how you can avoid getting hacked in the future. So,
Okay, thanks.
yeah. So if you have any other specific questions around that, you can ask those in the class as well. But
Okay, great. Thank
yeah,
you.
that's kind of what we're shooting for here. All right. Hey, Phyllis.
Good morning.
Hi, Jeanette. Good morning.
Good morning.
See. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
Okay. Cancer 56. I know I've changed your name before. I forget what it is. Want me to rename you?
Sure. Harold. Good morning.
What was it? Howard?
Harold. Harold. Harold.
Harold. Okay. All right, Harold. Okay. There you go. All right. Let's see. And Randy. Yes. So you're here. Hey, Randy.
Oops. Yep, I'm here.
Yep, there you are. Okay, great. And Gloria, good morning. A lot of people here this morning. Welcome. Let's see, Martha. There you are. And Georgianne. And when I call your name, just go ahead and unmute and say hi, just so I'm sure that I can hear you, because as you have questions during the class, I just want to make sure you can hear me and I can hear you. Hey, Georgianne. Okay, good. I got you. Okay. And Nancy Amont. Got 2 Nancys today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, David.
Yes, hello.
Right. Let's see, who else is here? Anyone who's not showing your video, if you want to, it's down in that bottom left there where it says right beside the mute and unmute is start and stop video. Not mandatory that you show your video. We would love to see you if you're okay showing it. Do want to make sure you can hear me and I can hear you. So that's the main thing I'm checking as we're going through. Okay, so who else? Where am I? Let's see, Roz, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, good. All right, excellent. And let's see. And Linda, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. Okay, welcome, Linda. Nelda.
I'm here.
Hey, good to see you, Nelda. Tony.
I'm here.
Good morning. Okay,
Good
great.
morning.
And then there's Diane.
Hi there.
Uh, good morning. And Grace. All right. All right. All right. All right. I can hear you, Grace. Good.
Okay.
All right. Good. All right. I think I've heard from everybody. Let's see. Andy, you came in. Missed you. Good morning. Is it Andre?
Yeah.
Andre. Okay. All right. Make sure I pronounce your names correctly.
You did.
All right. So I think I have heard from everyone. So we take the first 4 to 5 minutes just to give people a chance to get here from other classes they may have been in that ran over, and check everybody's technology, make sure it's working. And I think we have done that. So I'm going to get started. I got a couple of housekeeping things to go over first. I'll go ahead and share my screen and move your pictures around so I can see you over here on my other monitor. All right, excellent. And I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone, and I'll probably remute several times during the course of the class as I start to hear any background noise. I'll go ahead and mute everyone. It's a nice size group today, and things happen. So point there being is before you ask a question or make a comment, and hopefully you will ask questions and make comments, this is a very interactive class. Just look down and make sure and see if you're muted. If you are, unmute and then ask your question. You don't need to raise your hand or anything, just unmute and ask away. And I also have opened up the chat, and James is here from our TA group. And so he's going to help me monitor the chat. So if you are having microphone problems or you need to enter something in the chat for whatever reason, it is now open and monitored. But if you're not having mic problems, please just go ahead and unmute and ask your question. That way everyone else can hear your question, and I'll hear your question on a timely basis as well. But the chat is open if you need that. Okay, so that's the housekeeping. Let's go ahead and get started. We got a lot to cover today. So the class is Password Managers, why use one, how to find one. My name is Wade Yarbrough. I do want to welcome you to the class today. Very briefly, a little bit about me. I'm from a small town called Mason, Tennessee. It's in West Tennessee, close to Memphis, Tennessee. I got a PhD in experimental psychology, working with pigeons. If anybody remembers B.F. Skinner from your college intro psych classes, it was that type of work. I actually got to meet Dr. Skinner. But I spent most of my working career installing and training users on healthcare information systems, primarily in hospitals, working with doctors and nurses. So I've done a lot of adult training. What I love about teaching at Get Set Up, though, is that I'm training people around topics that you're interested in. You signed up for the class as opposed to your employer telling you you had to go and attend the class. And that's what we try to do with Get Set Up, is create an environment where you can take classes you're interested in, along with other people that are interested in the same topic, where you can interact with the other learners and interact with the guide teaching the class. We try to make it a very interactive experience. I think everyone enjoys that more. The session is being recorded, and any participant can request a copy of that recording by sending an email to help@getsetup.io. I'm going to put that in the chat. If you don't have that email in your that address in your email contacts, go ahead and copy it out of the chat and put it in your email. You'll need it to request copies of the recordings of this and any of the other classes, but there's some other things you can do with that email we'll talk about in the closing slides. And we are live streaming the class today. So any of you joining us via live stream, we do want to welcome you to the class and hope you enjoy the class as well. But we do recommend going ahead and going to our website and registering for classes. That way you can ask questions of the guide and interact with the other learners, get the full Get Set Up experience. And finally, we're not paid by any of the vendors that we train on or the products we train. We are purely trainers. Take a look at the agenda for today. By the end of class today, you'll know the problem with how we currently store passwords. I think you probably know that problem already. We'll talk about the gold standard of password management, what it looks like, and how we can try to get there. We'll talk a lot about comparing browser-based password managers to what I call true password managers. We'll talk about how to install and use a password manager, and then I'll do a demo of one of the popular passwords, kind of show you how they work. So we're going to start with a fairly broad conceptual level, drill down to a demo. So hopefully by the time we get through the demo, it'll make some of the conceptual material that's a little tough to get maybe it's as we start, make a lot more sense. So let's start with the password problem. And I remember, most of you probably do, once upon a time when we used 2, maybe 3 passwords, and we were logging into 20 or so sites. I had 2. I had one that was my secure password that I only use for bank accounts and brokerage accounts and those kind of things. And then another one that I used for everything else. Life was pretty easy back then. A recent report found that most people now are using over 50 passwords, and they're logging into up to 200 different sites. So life has moved on and gotten much more complicated, and that's kind of the root cause of the password problem. The other problem is that, and according to a 2019 data breach investigation, and data breach here we're talking about where someone did get your username and password and used it to get into your sites. 80% of data breaches are caused by weak passwords and reused passwords. So the challenge then is to use complex, secure, often called strong passwords, and not reuse passwords across multiple sites. That's how people typically hack into your accounts. They'll get your password from someplace that's not very secure, maybe a local store that you buying things from, or even someplace like Facebook. And then they'll use that password to get into your checking account or your brokerage account. So they don't hack your bank account, they hack something else. But if you're using the same password for Facebook that you're using for your bank account, if they hack your Facebook username and password, then they can get into your checking account where they can wreak a lot more damage. So the problem then is coming up with good secure passwords and remembering all those different passwords. So if we're not reusing passwords and we're logging into 200 sites, the experts say we should have 200 different passwords. That's a pretty big challenge, and I'll talk about some ways to start moving in that direction. But if you talk to the experts, that's what they're going to recommend. Never reuse a password. And using a password management system makes that doable. Still a little bit of a challenge, but it's doable. So let's talk about the ways we're managing passwords. Most of us have been here. I won't ask for a show of hands who's still there, but a paper notebook where we put all of our usernames and passwords in the notebook. And that worked okay back when we had 5 or 10. If you're getting up to 50 to 100 or more, that really starts to break down. It's too hard to update it. We typically have to change our passwords frequently, especially for our bank accounts and financial accounts, where they make you change your password at least once a year. Some of them now are doing it every 6 months. And the other problem is you don't always have that notebook with you. So if you're at a hotel or at a friend's house or somewhere else and you need to log into an account, you don't have your passwords unless you're carrying that notebook around with you, which I certainly hope you're not, because if you lose that notebook, then you're in a lot of trouble. So the next step up is browser-based password managers, and you probably have all seen these. You're more than likely using them. You may not understand what they are or how they're working, but with most of the modern browsers, if you log into Facebook, it will pop up and say, do you want me to remember this password? And you say yes. And then the next time you go to Facebook, it automatically loads that username and password into the login screen, and you just hit enter. So it's sort of doing that like magic behind the scenes. That's the browser that you're using that's playing a part of that password management role for you. It remembers sites that you go to and then recalls that user ID and password, puts it in the login screen when you come back. Several problems with the browser-based password managers. One is that if you use more than one browser, so a lot of people maybe use Chrome or Edge on their laptop, but then they've got an iPhone, so they're using Safari on their iPhone, and they may have a Amazon Kindle Fire, and they're using a different browser over there. And these password managers are only unique to that one browser. So if I'm using multiple browsers, and as you can see, I'm not a normal person, but I use 3 different browsers on my computer. I use Firefox, Edge, and Chrome. So I would have to capture the password 3 different times, store it 3 different places to cover me with all my browsers, forget about my iPhone and my Kindle. And it also doesn't help you logging into apps. Let me bring my phone up over here just for reference. So I also have passwords that I need to enter when I'm getting into and out of apps in a lot of cases. Some of them you stay logged into all the time, which may not be a great idea. But if you're using a browser-based password, it can't help you log into apps on your phone. So it's a better solution than a paper and pencil notebook, but it has some limitations. Okay. Let me stop here and ask for questions, make sure everybody understands this browser-based password management and how those work, since that's going to be a frame of reference for the next thing we talk about. Any questions? Okay. All right. And we're going to come back to this multiple times, but if you do have questions, just unmute and ask. So let's go to the next level, which is what I'm calling a true password manager. And some of the characteristics of a true password manager is that it's an application designed to manage your passwords in a robust manner. It provides access on all of your devices and browsers. So with a true password manager, I can change my password on any of my devices. It's immediately changed on all my devices. So it will work across all browsers, all devices. It will generate secure passwords. When we talked about the password problem, one of the problems we mentioned is that we don't use good passwords. Browser-based password managers, for the most part, don't help you come up with good secure passwords. A true password manager always does. Now, I mentioned that the browser-based password managers are getting better all the time. Some of them are starting to incorporate some of these true password manager characteristics. To my knowledge, none of them have all the characteristics of a true password manager, but they are getting better. And if that's all you do is stay at the browser-based password manager, that's still a huge step up from paper and pencil. It also works with all the apps. So if I've got a true password manager, it not only helps me get into all the browsers I use, but it helps me get into apps on my phone. And probably most importantly, it utilizes what's called a master password protection approach, where all my passwords are encrypted and protected so that it makes it much more difficult for someone to hack into my passwords. And I'm going to talk about that master password manager in more detail on the next screen. Just want to kind of present a high overview of what this true password manager looks like. We're going to drill in a little more. And I got a diagram here. Hopefully this will help explain it. So in this case, let's say I'm over here on my laptop and I go to log in, create an account on Facebook and enter a user ID and password. And so, and for argument's sake, we'll say live long and prosper is my password. If I'm using a true master password manager, what happens is that it encrypts this password and stores it looking something like this, totally gobbledygook. So this is the data center for my password management software company. So even if somebody hacked into their data center, found the file that has all my passwords in it, this is what they would see, not this. So they couldn't take this and go log into my checking account or into my Facebook account and access my account because it's been encrypted. And it encrypts it using an encryption key In this case, what we're calling the master password is the key. So now on the flip side, when I'm ready to log into Facebook again, I'm back on my computer over here. I go and retrieve this gobbledygook off the data center, use my encryption key to turn it back into the real password, and then it loads it into the Facebook login page. So the only way to encrypt and unencrypt this information is to know this key, and this key is the master password. And another key point here is that this master password is never sent to the data center. I'm going to use mine just to make it easier for me to talk about this. I use LastPass is the name of the one I use. It's one of the top ones, not necessarily the best one, but it's a good one. So this is LastPass Data Center. LastPass never gets access to my master password. So if someone hacks into their data center, they can't find my master password and unlock my vault because it's not stored anywhere in their data center. I'm the only one that knows what that master password is. Okay, I know this is a little cryptic. Questions about this? It's okay so far. Like a couple other comments here. And I've got another diagram up here. So the way these work is this data center where my passwords are stored, and they're typically called a vault. I have a password vault. All of my passwords are in here. This may be Facebook. This is Instagram. This is my checking account. This is my brokerage account, whatever. All my passwords are in this vault and encrypted. That vault is in the cloud, meaning it's in their data center. I get to it from my devices via the internet. So that way, if I'm on my computer and I log into Facebook for the first time, create an account, store it in my vault, I can immediately go to my phone and log into Facebook on my phone. It'll come up here and grab that username and password. I can change my password on my phone. It's changed in the cloud. So when I log into it from my desktop, it pulls the updated password automatically. So all my information is stored here in the cloud in this data center, but in encrypted format. So that's how we address one of the things I talked about, is that you can get to it from any browser on any device, or even from your apps, because it's stored in one central location that all of these different apps can get to it. Even if I'm at a hotel and I need to get into my accounts, I go down to the PC in the lobby of the hotel, I can get to my cloud vault to get my password for Facebook and log into Facebook from that computer at the hotel. And I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes.
Wade, I'm assuming if you remember your password, you don't need to do this.
Remember your password. You don't have to do that. That is correct. But if you use the passwords I'm going to show you, you're not going to remember any of these passwords, which is part of the approach. Is you want your passwords so complex that no one can hack into them and you can't remember them, and you don't need to remember them because your password manager has them. You have to remember your master password. That's the only one you have to remember. And but you are correct. If I know what my password is, I could just, especially from that hotel, I could just enter it. I could bypass my master password management system entirely.
So
how do you get your master password?
Okay, I'll show you. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and then I'll do a demo and show you how it works.
Okay.
Easier to show you, I think, than to explain it. But one other critical piece I want to explain is I said, and I want to say this 3 or 4 times, LastPass does not know what my master password is. I'm the only one that knows what that is. If I forget it, I'm done. I would have to rebuild my vault from scratch. I can still get into all my accounts. My accounts aren't locked, But what I'd have to do is go to Facebook and say, forgot password, get a new password, log in, go to my checking account, say, forgot password. So it's an ugly process. It doesn't lock you out, but it's going to be time consuming. So you don't want to forget this password. So what I recommend to people is that you treat it like any other secure document, put it on a 3x5 index card, put it in the safe in your house, put it in the bank lockbox, put it someplace or places, not only where it's safe. So if you forget what it is, you can go and look it up and find out what it is. But if something happens to you and you're incapacitated, your family can get to it in case they need to get into your checking account or your brokerage account.
It seems like it's more for convenience than safety.
That using this process is more convenient?
Yeah, because
Oh.
instead of having to have, let's say 20 different words, you can just put it onto the one.
Yep. I think it's much more convenient, and I think hopefully it'll be obvious when I do the demo, how easy it is to use it and why it is better than trying to keep up with all the different passwords.
But the people at LastPass have your, access to your code. So your bank account code seems.
Nope, they've got access to this gobbledygook. They can't turn this into this without my master password, and they don't have my master password. Does that make sense? So
No.
so
No, it doesn't, because they still have access. Let's like the bank account, is a specific code. So if you put that in with the vault, somebody has access to it then, other than just you.
Okay, we may be talking about different vaults. I'm talking about the vault at their data center.
Yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm talking about LastPass having that information, and you're saying they don't have that information.
They do not, because my password is live long and prosper. They've got ISP7UUS+/. This is what they've got. In order to convert this back to this, so I can put it into the login screen, they have to have my master password. And the technology is way beyond what I understand or could explain. But there's software that takes this gobbledygook, uses this key, and translates it back into what it really is. Without this key, you can't unencrypt it. And LastPass doesn't have that key, and it's not on their computers anywhere for someone else to steal. That's why if I forget it, I'm done. I can't get to the meter either.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll go over this some more. Hopefully it'll get done. No, this is a little cryptic. This is hard stuff. So please ask questions if you have them. I'm going to keep going, but again, I'll keep talking about this. Hopefully it'll get clearer, but if you continue to have questions, go ahead and ask. Again, I'm not going to get into the technology because I don't understand it either, but the point being, if without this password that I'm the only one that has, no one can uncipher what's in here. Think about it in some ways like a physical vault, and this is the key. That's why they call it a key. All my stuff is in here at LastPass's data center, but without my key, they can't unlock the vault where it's stored, so they can't get to it. That's kind of why they use that lock and key analogy. Okay, let's go on.
Wait,
Uh-huh.
there is a question from Nancy and Gloria in the chat. Can you please look at that?
Okay. Yes, you can access from any spot, anywhere. And I'll talk. I'm going to demo that and kind of explain how that works. You do have to be careful of your master password. So again, and I'll show you how I could go to a computer in a hotel and go to my vault, which is in the cloud. I'd have to enter my master password into that computer. So I want to make sure nobody's looking over my shoulder and writes down my master password when I type it in. Of course, it doesn't show it when I type it in. They'd have to watch my fingers typing on the keyboard. But you want to use the same precaution you would if you were entering the real password. So if anything, you want to protect that key. And this key needs to be something fairly sophisticated. You don't want to use your dog's name for your master password key because you don't want it to be something that they could hack. They could guess what it is. So it needs to have uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters in it, but it needs to be something you can remember. Okay. All right. Okay. So hopefully I've answered that one, Nancy. If not, I'm going to go talk about that a little bit more. So ask me again or ask me to expand if we get to the end, if we haven't covered that. I think as I go through the demo, it probably is going to be a little more clear.
Wait, is there any cost?
Yes, there are. And I'm going to go over that in a few minutes as well. So hang on, but yes, we'll talk about cost. So just briefly, because I've covered most of this, but the gold standard of password management includes both your behavior and the software. And so we said one thing is you want to have a unique, complex password for each account. Your password management software is not going to force you to do that. I could use my name, my dog's name is Elsa Marie. I could have Elsa Marie as my password for every site I log into. And LastPass will let me do that. It will help me do it better, but it doesn't force me. So this is your behavior, my behavior. The software doesn't make us do that. But what the software does is it will give us, it'll store it in that secure encrypted vault. It'll use the master password to encrypt it and make sure no one can get to it. It makes it available from all your devices. If you change your password, it will save that new password and make it available to all your devices. And you can get into any of your apps as well as through the browsers. So that's kind of, the whole standard there. So let's get a little more concrete. How does this whole thing work? So let's talk about how, if you decide you wanted to do this, how would you get it started and make it work? And so you would select your password management software. And I'm going to talk about the different vendors in a minute, but you pick which one you're going to use and you go to their website and create an account. And as part of that process, you'll create your master password that we've been talking about. And then you're going to make sure it's complex and that you've got it stored somewhere safe in a vault or a safe in your house so you can get to it. So then when you log into a new site, it offers to save your credentials. That's just like the browser-based password manager. So it's going to say the first time I go to Facebook and put in my username and password, it's going to recognize that it doesn't have Facebook in my vault, and it'll say, do you want me to save this username and password? And you'll say yes. When I return to Facebook, it will fill in those credentials in the login page. It lets you have multiple logins, which a lot of the browser-based password managers don't. So for instance, I've got 4 different Amazon accounts, don't ask me, but I can, when I go to log into Amazon, it asks me which of my 4 accounts do I want to use to log in, and it keeps track of all the different accounts. It makes it easier to access by using browser toolbar extensions. That's what this is up here. So I can get to my vault just by clicking here instead of having to come up, open a tab, and then type in www.lastpass.com. Don't have to use this, but it makes it easier. So once I've set up that account and got it set up on my device, I have to download and install it on all my devices. So it does have to be installed on each device, or so I have to put it on my phone, I have to put it on my laptop, I have to put it on my desktop to use it. And which is not 100% true. I can just use it via the browser. But to get to this extension, I've got to load that in. And I'll demo that. I can make that a little clearer. But you do have to install the app on any device that, like your smartphone or your tablets. So now I've got it, my account set up, and I've got it ready to start using. First thing you have to do is to turn off the browser-based password managers, because otherwise you're going to have 2 different products trying to store your passwords and load them into the site you're going to. This works different depending on the browser. I'm using Chrome today. It works similar on all the others. You basically have to go to your settings on your browser and look for something that says autofill or passwords in the settings. So in this case, it says autofill over here, but when I come down here, it's got my passwords that it will autofill. So you click this and mine is already off, but when you come in, it's going to be on where it says offer to save passwords. I'm going to say don't offer to save my password. Automatically sign me in. I'm going to say don't sign me in. So that essentially turns off that browser-based password management. It also has your passwords that are in there. Those are still there for you to access while you're transitioning to your password manager. So I can go and see what my Facebook username and password is to log in the first time to get it into my vault. Questions about how the setup works? A little different depending on which one of the vendors you pick, but it's pretty much the same process, fairly simple. Then you've got the browser turned off. You just have to add your passwords. Two ways to do that. Option one is to do it gradually. So basically the first time I log into Facebook, I load it in, then I go to my bank account. First time I go in, it's not going to be in the vault. So I have to either get it from my browser-based password, or what I could do, especially for my financial accounts, is to take an opportunity to change my password as I'm loading it into my password manager. So when I go to my checking account, I would do forgot password or change password and create a new better one and put the new one in LastPass. But either way, you're loading them in there one at a time. Takes a little longer, but it's the low tech, easy way to do things. The alternative, if you're a little more technically sophisticated, you can download your passwords from your password management system and then upload it into your master password software. It requires a little more technical sophistication, but it's faster. This is less techy, takes a little longer. Okay, questions? I see there's a question about passwords. We'll talk a little bit about passwords, secure passwords in a minute when I show you how that works with the in the demo. There's no single answer. A lot of different sites have a minimum. So it'll say it's got to be at least 8 characters long, and it's got to have uppercase, lowercase, and at least one number. Some are going to say it's got to have uppercase, lowercase numbers and special characters, and it's got to be at least 12. So you've got to look at what the minimum is. You can always choose to do more. The longer the password is, the harder it is to hack into. But there's no magic definition there other than, ideally you'd put all 4, uppercase, lowercase numbers and special characters would be considered a strong password. All right. Questions? I'm going to move on because I do want to keep an eye on the time and make sure we save time for the demo. The next question is, which one do you pick? And there are a lot of very good ones out there. And that could be a whole hour-long class in and of itself to go over all of them. And what I'm going to do is in the email that comes out after class, I'm going to have links to 2 different reviews of password management software, where each one of those reviews talks about their top 10, why they ranked them the way they did. I'm going to go into this one just to kind of give you an idea of what they look like. This is one of the ones I'm going to send you. So this is Safety Detective's assessment of what the top 10 are. And it kind of has the top 10 over here in the list. But they go over things like strong data encryption, password autofilling, 2-factor authentication, lots of different factors they use to compare them. And then they go down through, kind of quick summary of the top 5. These 5 are in most people's, at least everybody's top 10 frequently in the top 5, but there are quite a few more that are very good. And again, it talks about how they evaluated them, and then it goes into each one of them, explains pros and cons, what it does, some things it may do that the others don't.
It says LastPass was free.
LastPass, the correct verb tense is was. Yeah. LastPass used to be very popular. In fact, that's why I use it, because it was free. As of about 2 months ago, it is no longer free unless you only use it either as a browser or as a app. If you want to use it on your phone and in your browser, you have to pay for it. So I don't think there's any other totally free ones anymore. So they're all subscription based. There's a price for each one of them. It goes over that in these articles. And again, you would need to check when you go to sign up, because vendors change their prices. So they may have changed their prices since this article was done, but both of these are 2021 articles. They're fairly current. So they should be pretty much up to date, but you would check that. Most of them have tiers. They'll have a base tier, which is fairly inexpensive. Probably something like, it's about like Netflix, $3 to $5 a month. And then they have a premium tier. When you go to the premium tier, it doesn't make it more secure. It gives you other functions and features, like the ability to store other documents in your vault, like store your Wi-Fi password in your vault, other functions and features, which they'll talk about in the reviews. But yeah, these are all good ones. Questions about that? So that's your homework assignment, is go and take a look at them. But I'd say any of these top 10 would be good. If price is your biggest factor, find the cheapest one and go with that one. I know there's one password that works best with Apple. So if you're an Apple person, it'll tell you which ones work better with different platforms. And so it'll say this one tends to work better with Apple. If you're an Apple person, you may want to try that one, etc.
I'm curious. I guess I'm confused. I can have my dog's name as a password in the vault. I can do anything I want in the vault. Yep. And have it be simple, simple, simple. But then I would have a the encrypted one would be one I have to keep secret.
You want to have, the reason to have really complex passwords, even though your password vault is safe, if let's say the password I use for my checking account is Elsa1, Elsa's the name of my dog, that's my password. The risk is not somebody hacking into LastPass and getting Elsa1 out of here. They're going to just have, these hackers have computer programs that keep trying different passwords until it finds one that hits. That's how they break into your account. And they use things like proper nouns, proper names, names of locations as what your password may be. And that's how they hack into your account. So they're not going to hack into here and get it. That's the least likely thing to happen. But if I put a really simple password in here, I'm not buying a lot, because they could still hack into it. It's mainly just helping me remember Elsa1 is my password. I want to have a much more complicated password for my checking account.
So a complicated password needs to be in the cloud too.
Yes, it needs to be what's stored in here.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go, because we got time for the demo here, but I do want to get to the demo, and because I think that's going to cover a lot of questions. Let me do the demo. I see a couple of things in the chat, and I think I'm covering all of that in the demo. So if I don't, ask me again there. So let me show you how, if I'm getting ready to go log into an account, how I would do it. I would click on my LastPass, and you can see LastPass has the same icon here. And I teach at a community college, and they use a product called Moodle, which is where I put my grades and assignments and all that stuff. So I type the first 2 letters of the account I want to log into, and it comes up here. I don't have to keep passwords and shortcuts anywhere else. It knows all the sites I log into. So I'll just click, I want to log into BCC's Brunswick Community College. So it brings me here. I click login. Down here in the login section, I've got this same icon up here. And the number 1, that's telling me I've got 1 password saved for this account. So I just click here and say, fill it in. So it puts in my username, it puts in my password. I don't see my password. I don't care what that password is. I never have to know what it is. I just click login. Oops. And I don't teach there anymore. They must have disabled my account. It should log me in. So I probably would have to go in and reset my password, but that's how it should work. I'm gonna have to use a different example for my class. I stopped teaching there at the first of the year. So I think they've taken me out. Let me go to a different one. So I was gonna demo this one anyway, because I was gonna show you how you can have multiple passwords. And I said I've got several for Amazon. So I type AMA, that's enough to get Amazon. Here's my different passwords. And I think this gets to one of Nancy's questions. My wife and I use the same password vault. So here's my password and here's hers. You can do that. You can share a vault if you don't mind sharing. You know, if I don't want my wife to get into my Amazon account and she don't want me to get into hers, we'd have to have separate vaults. So we would have to pay for 2 of them and maintain 2 different ones. We use the same one. So if I need to log into her account, I can just click here and log into her account. I'm going to log into mine. Since I picked which one I wanted, it automatically did the username. It's come to the password. As a double check, it makes me enter the password associated with the username I've put in. I can tell from the username right there, this is the one I want, and sign in, and I'm now in Amazon. So that's basically how you use it on a daily basis. If I want to go somewhere, I just click here, type where I want to go, it'll bring it up, and I can log into that account. So it manages every place I have an account, knows what the login screen URL is and what my username and password is. Questions about that process? All right. So let's talk about the password itself. So let's say I want to change my Amazon password. So I go to the Amazon screen where you can change your password, and it'll put in your old password. Then it says, what's your new password? What do you want your new password to be? I would come here, click on this little shortcut, generate a secure password. And it has a little tool here that generates passwords. I tell it the parameters. Maybe I don't want to have symbols, but I want to have, and I've got to have I'll put in 11 digits. Maybe the minimum is 10 or 8. I'll go bigger than I have to. And here's a password that fits those parameters, uppercase, lowercase, and numbers. If I want to make it more secure, I can say add symbols to it. Now it's adding symbols. If I want to be really protective, maybe it's my checking account, I can say make it 20 characters long. I don't really care because I don't have to remember this. I could not remember this, but no one's going to hack into that one either with a tool where they're just trying passwords, trying to guess what my password is. The chance of them guessing that password is almost 0. Okay.
So you do that at each site then?
Yep. So I would come here and then I would just, copy and paste this. I'd copy it from here. And then I'd go over here to the Amazon page and paste it. And now I've changed my password. So this is one of the things, some of them have some easier ways to do this. They have ways where it automatically change your password without having to go over here and copying and pasting. So those are some of the differences between one vendor and the other. So you may want to look into how that process works, but they'll all give you some way to do what I just did. Okay, a couple of
Okay.
questions in
Oh,
the,
Wade, so
Uh-huh.
you, whenever you add an app, say, you decide on opening a new app and so now you have a new password for that. So you just have to remember to go to the password manager and add that in.
nope,
No?
nope. So let's say I've never been to Facebook before. I'm creating a new Facebook account. I would open a browser and I go to facebook.com and I already have an account, but it would say, enter your username, enter your password. When I enter my username and my password, LastPass is always watching. And so it says, I don't have a username and password for Facebook. So it's going to pop up a little window saying, do you want LastPass to remember this username and password? All you have to do is say okay or yes.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
it'll automatically remember it. Yeah, you don't have to execute, bring up the vault or anything.
Terrific. Thank you.
Someone was asking about sharing a vault between two people. Yeah, you would both have to use the same master password. So you'd have to agree what that is, and you both have to know what that master password is. And I think I mentioned earlier, most of the vendors will let you load all your passwords if you've got them on a piece of paper already, or you've got them from your browser-based password manager. If you can get a list in a computer file, you can upload that file. A little more complicated, but you can do that. Yes, I think all of them let you do that. So let me go. Now, if I wanted to go into my whole vault, instead of using this little shortcut, I can click here and just open my vault. And then this is my whole vault. So this is showing me all the items. I'm going to run this out just for a second. I can go in, and so this is what I would do if I'm at the hotel and I need to log into Twitter and I don't know what my password is. So because I'm at the, so I just would go into www.lastpass.com. I would have to enter my my master password to open it, obviously. So I'd have to enter my username and my master password to open my vault, and it would open to here. And I can do the same things I was doing with that shortcut. So if I want to log into Twitter, I can just say launch and it would launch Twitter. I'm already logged in, so it's not going to make me log in here. But it would work the same way from there. So that's how I can get to it from a browser tab.
So I noticed that your wife's didn't come up. It's only when she's on her. So you don't. So that's good. It doesn't show.
She didn't have a Twitter account, so.
But even on the Amazon, doesn't come up for her.
You can get to all of those. This is showing me the most recent ones.
Okay.
It's sorting by most recent. So this is one I most recently used. If I sort alphabetically A through Z, it'll show me all of those. So all 4 of those are in there. Here they are. Here's the ones that are most recently used. These are 2 of mine. You can search up here. So this is probably the best way to get to it. So I type Amazon, and here's my 3 accounts, and here's hers. Amazon Michelle.
Got it. Thanks.
And there's other things you can do here. So, since I'm using the premium version now, I can put credit cards in there, bank accounts in there. I can store notes and addresses, Wi-Fi passwords. So you can do things other than just saving your usernames and passwords in there. This is what varies from one vendor to the other as well. Different things, other things you can do. Let me show you the phone side. Let me do one other thing here. If I want to, sometimes if you call support, they're going to ask you for your username and password as a way to verify your identity. And so you may have to be able to find that cryptic password. From here, I could just type that wrench, which is the edit, but as part of it, it shows me my username. And if I click show password, it would show me my password and I could read it off to them from here. Now, some sites, and Amazon is one of them, it has an auto change password. So I can click this here and change my password without having to log into Amazon to change it. So I mentioned that some of them have easier ways to change your password. The way that I showed you always works, but that's another way. I don't want to change that password, so I'm not going to go into that. But this is where you could change it from here. Let me go over to the phone and see if I can get this to work. So here's LastPass on my phone, so I can click here. And for my phone, I have Touch ID, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. It worked that time. So instead of having to remember my master password, I've told LastPass to use my finger instead. You know, if I don't want to do that, I could make it still enter my master password, but on my phone, I figure that's safe enough and it saves me having to remember my master password. But it now brings me into the same thing. So again, if I'm on the phone with support at Facebook and they want me to give them my password, I can click show password here. It'll show me my password and I can give it to them. Or if I want to log into a computer and at my friend's house and I don't want to go up in through the browser because I don't want him watching or whatever, I can come down here and get my username and password off my phone. So the phone one comes in handy, as well as being able to log into any app that requires a password. If you log into that app, it will work like it does with the browser. It'll you touch LastPass and it'll load in the username and password. Okay, we got time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. I don't know if I've missed anything in the chat. If I have, just go ahead and ask me here because we got just a couple of minutes left. Any questions?
Very complicated.
It is a little bit. It's not quite as bad as it probably sounds the first time through, because there's a lot of conceptual material that I've presented to make sure you understand what they are and how they work. And in the email that I'm sending out, there's an article that kind of goes over this all again as well. So you can read that article. You can get a copy of the recording and watch it again, or you can take the class again. A lot of people take this class more than once. Obviously, there's different questions each time you take the class, so you'll get some new information taking it again. So feel free to sign up and take the same class again. There's a question about.
Wait, I have a question. So it's in the chat, actually. Can you load all your passwords in LastPass before you shut down the other system that you're using? Or do you have to shut it down and then load?
You would want to shut down, well, you do it at the same time. If you're going to load them, upload them all from a list, you would want to go into the browser and get the passwords ready, upload them to MasterPass, and then turn it off. And you can do it in any order you want to. What you don't want is to have both of them working at the same time. So once LastPass was working, I'd want to turn this off immediately, because otherwise both of them are going to try and load passwords into the login page and it gets ugly.
So you can upload your passwords from your old system into the new system?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep, it's a little more complicated, requires a little more technical sophistication, but if you're comfortable downloading, you'd have to download them from wherever you got them to a file and then upload that file to your password management system.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can do that if you're comfortable doing that, and then it's done all at once instead of doing them one at a time.
Because Apple has a key, I forget what they call it. And that's keychain, and that's where the passwords are stored.
Yeah, I've got an article in the email that's coming out about keychain. It's at least last time I looked at it, it's almost a true password manager. It doesn't meet all the criteria, but it's getting better all the time. And it's part of, it comes free. So that is one that is free if you're an Apple person. One of the problems with it, it doesn't work with non-Apple devices, I don't think. So that is one of the motivation, but there's an article in there that talks about Keychain and compares it to LastPass and 1Password, which are two of the more popular ones, in terms of what it does and doesn't do relative to those other two. So if you're interested in Keychain, take a look at that article.
Okay. Thank you.
I have overdosed on all the information you gave us. Is there a password manager for dummies?
There probably is. Like I said, there's in the email, there's an article or two which covers the same material. If you want to read through that and or take the class again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we are out of time, so I do have to quickly go to the closing here. I do want to thank you for attending the class. This is the end of the official class. I do have some closing slides that are especially important for anyone that's new to Get Set Up that I want to cover in terms of what's going to happen after class, because I've mentioned this email several times. So there'll be an email that comes out after class, and it has those links that I've been talking about. So be sure and take a look at those links. Look at those. It'll provide a lot of covers a lot of the same thing I talked about, but in different ways and some additional information. If you don't get this email, it's the same email I gave you before, help@getsetup.io. Send them an email saying I never got the email for the password manager class, and they'll get in touch with you. Make sure you get that email. The email has links to some other classes. If you're interested in one of those classes, you can just click that link and go to that class. There's a give feedback link, which opens our feedback form. Very quick, rate the class, rate the guide, hit done. There's a place to put comments. We hope you'll give us comments. Comments aren't required, but they're appreciated. And then there's a link to view schedule, which will take you to our website where you can book another class. And with that, I am over time already, so I'm going to stop here. I do want to thank you for attending. I hope you enjoyed the class as much as I did, and hope I see you again in another class really soon. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Great class, Wade. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.